teaching in the marketplace. It so happens that a husband finds proof of his wife's adultery. So the mob carries her to the marketplace to stone her to death. The rabbi walks forward and stands beside the woman. Out of respect for him, the mob pauses momentarily and waits with stones heavy in their hands. Is there anyone here, the rabbi says, who has not desired another man's wife, nor another woman's husband? They murmur and say, we all know the desire, but Lord, none of us have acted on it. The rabbi says, then kneel down and give thanks that God made you strong. As they all turn to leave, the rabbi walks over, takes the woman by the hand, and he leads her out of the marketplace. Just before he lets her go, they rent a hotel room together. And so the woman's sin multiplied, because the rabbi could stop neither himself nor her.
Where there is blindness, we will bring forth sight. Where there is darkness, we will shine his light. Where there is sadness, we will bear their grief. To the millions crying for release, we will be his instruments of peace.
A great rabbi stands teaching in the marketplace. It so happens that a husband finds proof that morning of his wife's adultery, and the mob carries her to the marketplace to stone her to death. The rabbi walks over, stands beside the woman. Out of respect for him, the mob pauses momentarily and waits with stones heavy in their hands. The rabbi says, which of you is without sin? Let him cast the first stone. The people are convicted by this question, and they forget their unity of purpose and their own individual sins. And someday they think, I may be like this woman, and I'll hope for forgiveness and another chance. I should treat her the way I wish to be treated. As they open their hands and let the stones fall to the ground, the rabbi picked up one of the large ones, lifts it high over his head, and he crushes the woman as she falls to the cobblestone. I understand sin, the rabbi says, but if we don't establish justice as our absolute highest priority, everything we've worked for will be lost to people like this. And so the woman died, and her sins with it.
Where there is hatred, we will sow his love. Where there is injury, we will never judge. Where there is striving, we will seek his peace. To the people crying for release, we will be his instruments of peace.
A great rabbi stands teaching in the marketplace. It so happens that a husband finds proof that morning of his wife's adultery, and the mob carries her to the marketplace to stone her to death. The rabbi walks forward and stands beside the woman. Out of respect for him, the mob pauses momentarily and waits with stones heavy in their hands. The rabbi kneels down and begins writing on the ground. As he stands up, he exclaims, which of you is without sin? Let him cast the first stone. The people are convicted by this question, and one by one, they all drop their stones. The oldest ones first. With all the stones on the ground, and all the men walking away, the rabbi motioned to the rocks, picked them up, and stoned each man with his own rock. And so, the rabbi showed the woman grace, while rescuing her from her oppressors, also ridding the area of many sinful and self-righteous people.
Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let your love increase.
our God to actually do. None of us have this creator in our mind handling those situations like that. So let's go back to the stories. For this first one, the rabbi, he preached the right message, but for him to fix the situation, he rented a hotel room and he multiplied her sins. No, that's not right at all. And then, on the second story, the rabbi picks up a stone and he crushes her head, as an example to all sinners. So now all of a sudden our Lord is some kind of executioner. Absolutely not. And then we have this last story, where the Lord, he completely turns the message away from the adulterers, and he just starts taking the crowd out one by one. And before you know it, we have an all dodgeball game. But if you really think about it, why is it so weird for our God to act like this, when in reality we act like this every single day? It's not even a shock. And I'm no exception either. I've screwed up in tough situations like this many times. For instance, I have football practice every morning at 6:30, so I'm already in a grumpy mood. And up until this point, it has been a horrible week for me. And I see this kid getting messed with on our team by these two bigger guys. And I decide to try to step in and be the hero. And so I get in their face and I give them a little shove. And amazingly, they didn't break me. They just walked off laughing, which probably meant that they took me pushing them as a joke. But we see this kind of thing a lot. I saw this kid in need of help, but I took on a more aggressive attitude. And in the same way, I'm like the rabbi, who wanted to stand up for the woman because he loves her. But then I pick up a rock and I throw it at the accusers, who God also loves. You can't love person A at the expense of person B. And you can't love person B at the expense of person A. And we most certainly can't preach love to person A and B only to lead our life in a way that does unloving things. And so, we've heard all these stories, and really the only thing we know is how not to react. So let's read the right word. A great rabbi stands teaching in the market. It so happens that a husband finds proof that morning of his wife's adultery, and a mob carries her to the marketplace to stone her to death. The rabbi walks forward, and he stands beside the woman. Out of respect for him, the mob pauses momentarily and waits with stones heavy in their hands. The rabbi kneels down and begins writing on the ground. As he stands up, he exclaims, "Which of you is without sin? Let him cast the first stone." The people are convicted by this question, and one by one, they forget their unity of purpose. The rabbi turned to the woman and asked, "Where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," said the woman. "Then neither do I condemn you," said the rabbi. "Go now and leave your life of sin." When you know all the wrong ways this story could have happened, there's something truly special and powerful about how perfectly Jesus handled this situation. It's really inspiring, but it's also frustrating. And it shows that I haven't gotten it right all the time. So, maybe before we move on how to handle some situations like Jesus did, it would be good for us to confess that we messed up in situations like this. So, let's ask God to open our hearts to a better way. And before Cortland comes up here, let's spend some time asking God to humble us and help us find a way to handle a better way.